Reading Vermeer's Allegory of Painting. Let us begin by turning to the hovering Habsburg Empire chandelier. The chandelier hangs with no candles and is somewhat crooked or bent. It marks visually political divisions and thus strife, most notably between the Germanic South and the North, now properly Dutch. This is what the map on the wall is about. Now, the light in the painting does not evidently derive from the chandelier. What does this tell us? If the chandelier is that of empire with its eagles, well, then we can deduce that the light does not come from empire. It comes indeed through a window open to what is beyond empire, even as the window is concealed by the elegantly decorated imperial-like tapestry. Now, the seat in the forefront invites the painter's viewer to see the window and source of light behind a closed book and an upward-facing theatrical mask and drapery likely to belong to a costume and lying over what would then likely be a play's prompt book. On the other hand, behind the book lies a single crumpled sheet of paper that a muse standing behind the table may be looking at, her mouth ajar. Is she to recite a role? Now, the muse does not see the political background to the painting, the map. Holding a trumpet, crowned by laurel leaves and carrying a closed tome, the muse is being painted by the painter, who is well placed himself to see the muse in light of the background she cannot see, as she stands facing the light while looking downward, arguably to the crumpled sheet. There are then 3 books in the painting. One thick closed tome with fastening laces, standing vertically on the table. The second is an open thin book, lying flat and open on the table. The third is a closed tome without laces, held diagonally by the muse. Now, the symbols characterizing the muse suggest that she is poetry, who traditionally acclaims authorities, hence the trumpet, bringing them fame. Indeed, the muse may be seen as fame herself. So her closed, slanted book may be the source of the play transcript folio lying crumpled on the table. The original source would then not be the standing bound book, even as this might be the source of the transcript pad lying open before the crumpled folio. The mask between the vertical volume and the pad would then suggest the theatrical nature of the derivation. The play, the story, would not then derive from the book left on its own and upright, but from the book held by a muse. But now, imagine politics in terms of theatrical play. In this case, Vermeer would be suggesting that political life is not based on law per se, upon freestanding law, but upon law in the hands of poets, one might say. Our role in a political context would then be loose, as is the crumpled sheet beneath the muse's gaze. Our very life would not be fixed by law, It would rather be a fleeting one sung by the fame-lending muse. What does this say about the Habsburg Empire? The elegant painter would be well placed to know. Where will we sit? On which chair? The painter's, or an equivalent, or the one facing the painter, though not the muse's background, her world? Is poetry to forget the world it shapes to begin with? A world abandoned by poetry is, if the painting's map is to speak, a fractured world, a world overtaken, overturned by strife. The freedom represented by sailing ships stands in conflict with the imperial authority of the South. Is this conflict between freedom and authority, or rather this falling of both poles into strife, the result of poetry's turning her back on them? Is the painter's task one of turning poetry, including everyday discourse, to gently face both freedom and authority, and thereby to incarnate a natural balance between the two? The painter's work is not over, and indeed much work remains to be done in the aftermath of painting. We ourselves might not be painters, but we might be able to carry on the painter's work in poetry or in saving political life from strife, and this, of course, in harmony with the painter's work. Just as the painter relies on material support, most notably here the easel and the staff, so might we rely on painting as our own support, provided we read it poetically. In us, the primary colors characterizing painter and poetry, blue, yellow, and red, could come together to complete the painter's work.